Welcome to paper session 3 by academics and professionals. This session will be chaired by Professor Dr. Santosh Kshirsagar. Let me introduce him first. Professor Kshirsagar is a design educator and calligrapher from Mumbai, India. With more than 2 decades of teaching experience, he is the current dean at Sir J.J. Institute of Applied Art. In 2019, he completed his PhD on handwriting acquisition in Devanagari script from IDC IIT Bombay. He teaches calligraphy, especially in Devanagari script, typography, and visual communication design. He's an academic consultant to government organizations and private institutions in India. He's on the advisory board of Typography Day from 2009 and is one of the co-founders of Aksharaya, a non-profit organization dedicated to creating awareness about Indian scripts. I now request Professor Kshirsagar to be the chairman for this session of paper presentations.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, so we can begin with the paper sessions, third paper session for academics and personalities, professionals. We have altogether 4 presentations right now. What we will keep in a loop that first I will introduce every speaker before he speaks, but the question answer we can handle it in the end. So please make a note of after every presentation, please write down your questions and then in the end you should ask for the sake of convenience. So may I invite Anusheel, visual cartography and typography. Anusheel is a graphic designer. Anusheel is a graphic designer from TSK India. Yeah, TSK Design. So over to Anusheel.
Okay. So, hi everyone. Namaste. Excited to be here and thank you for the introduction. So, thank you Team Typefaces for letting me present this uncanny topic. I am Anusheel and I love to explore the fascinating world of typography and tessellations. So on the screen, you see a bunch of characters that are geometric. They have that techie, cryptic feel to them. But if you look closely, you can actually read my introduction here. It says, like I'll read it for you. It says, Namaste, hi everyone, excited, and so on and so forth. Since we are so used to reading text within a certain array of leading and kerning, that something like this feels like just random characters. And this randomness is how my research actually started. We are told that every time we make a design decision, we should have a reasoning behind it, question everything and assume nothing. So the curious child in me started wondering, and until I came across these random triangular patterns which are widely used in the world of design. And I wondered and questioned that even they should have a meaning, right? Like a reason as to why each and every triangle is placed in a certain way. And that's when the question hit me. Can I design something in a way that looks random, but if I paid attention, the hidden meaning reveals? And this question is how I started exploring cryptography and its application in our typographic world. Some knowledge is sacred, only for the chosen few. Information like our private messages, company secrets, passwords are all safe and secure because of cryptography. So cryptography is the practice and study of techniques for secure communication between the sender and receiver. Simply put, it's about sharing messages in a secret manner. This age-old study's application can be seen in use from the times of Julius Caesar to modern-day electronic transactions. One of the techniques of encrypting messages is visual cryptography. As the name suggests, it's about sharing messages in a visual format such as images or typography. One of the best known techniques involves breaking an image into parts so that only someone with all the parts can encrypt the image or understand the meaning behind it. Some techniques also use typography as a tool, such as Turing fonts. It is very much like Caesar cipher, where the characters of the fonts are unordered on purpose. This font mainly exists in the digital world when you want to publish something sensitive and don't want to be indexed by search engines like Google. So it will look like how it is looking on the screen, but this is how, sorry, yeah, this is how it will look like on the screen. But if you try to copy it, or if someone's trying to search for it, this is what they'll read it as. Next, we have Bacon cipher, which involves the usage of two typefaces. This is a bit complex. So basically, each character of the decrypted message is replaced with 5 characters to encrypt it. So like how in binary we have zeros and ones for each and everything in the world, here we have typeface A and typeface B. So for example, the letter A will be used in 5 characters of typeface A. The letter B will be used in 4 characters of typeface A and 1 character of typeface B. And it doesn't matter what the actual content of the message is. It can be anything. Right now, I have lyrics of the song I Just Called to Say I Love You by Keith Rogers, which when decrypted says, "You are not my type." So I can even change the content here to something else, like even my introduction or literally what I'm saying. It's just important that the two typefaces and how the characters are used can help in decrypting the actual message. And it's interesting to see how human nature of saying something and meaning something else finds its way into our daily visual techniques of communication. Then we have printer steganography, in which secret yellow dots are printed on paper encoding the details of device that page was printed on. And this is mostly used to identify whistleblowers by companies or corporations or even governments to identify who let the secrets out. Then next we have pigpen cipher. Pigpen cipher uses the classic technique of replacing alphabets of letters with symbols, and it is one of the most widely used ciphers as kids to communicate with our BFFs and ask and answer worldly questions. And sometimes it's the old doctor's handwritings that can do the trick. So this study is an exploration of how typography can facilitate visual cryptography. And it's very exploratory most of the time. I was just going on with the flow of things. And the result of this ongoing research are letter forms that are as much as a puzzle to solve as they're a message to read. In plain sight, these typefaces might look like random patterns, but when looked closely, they reveal the hidden messages they carry. They also serve as an intersection of design, art, play, sculpture, environment, and logic. Such letters have a pareidolia effect. Pareidolia is one such effect which falls into the gray area between the decrypted and encrypted. For example, a cloud that might look like a dinosaur, or texture on the floor which might look like a face. Pareidolia can be used in visual cryptography, where the letter forms and typography exist in the gray area of legible and illegible. By relaxing the constraints of legibility, I have created letter forms in a way that requires you to pay attention to them. So they lie somewhere around here in the middle. And I used a very programmatic method to create these typefaces. By programmatic, I mean I identified a system and a set of constraints and rules to explore. As we have zeros and ones as in binary as elements, I use basic shapes like circles, squares, and triangles as my elements. And when we put a bunch of zeros and ones into a structure, which is a line, a code is formed. So in a similar way, I used grids as my structure to create these letter forms. And apart from their, and with different shapes, each typefaces apart from their cryptic nature has a certain visual flair and attributes to them. So the first one you have already seen, which is cipher mono, and it is created using this triangle and a grid created from the triangle itself. It's geometric, it's sticky, it's hard to read because of its sharp features. And when you stack it together in a perfect grid, it makes it very difficult to read. And it looks like some coding related graphic, but the message sits in plain sight waiting to be understood. Moving on to the next one. Can you try to read it, what it says? I'll pause for a few seconds here. So it's the same grid I used in like the previous one, but with circles. And it's interesting how we have seen and used the dot grid format in typography for so many years. But if you change the grid slightly, it makes everything a lot more difficult to read. Now this again follows the foundation of cipher mono, but it morphs in a different way. It transitions from its feature from a geometric techie feel to a very organic and nature related features. While I was trying to group these letters, I accidentally increased their roundness, and then this happened. This is one of those happy accidents where the second nature of tech reveals itself. I would have never come across making letter forms like this if I followed a conventional way. So sometimes, letting the tool take the wheel can do wonders. Which brings me up to my next type, which is circus mono. It was created using a simple circle and a square followed by a grid by the same elements. As I showed earlier, that breaking messages into parts can help you encrypt it. This technique acts almost like a tool for us to create letters. This time I started with the circle and square, and it's whimsical and fun in its visual attributes. So here's a Dr. Seuss quote in circus. I'll read it for you. Today you are you, that is truer than true. There is no one alive who is youer than you. So while exploring these grids and shapes, I realized the less shapes I use, the more difficult it is to read the letter. It's like seeing an image in HD versus seeing an image in less pixels. So this is the full set. This is the set just using the circles. This is the set using just squares. This is the subtraction of it. This is the unification of it. This is the intersection of it, the inverse of intersection, and the union of intersection and the inverse of intersection. So this exploration went on for a while, and I ended up with 8 sets. So on the screen, you see all these forms are the character O. And if we further explore with lines, line width, and outlines, with a bunch of permutation and combinations, we can end up with a lot more styles. And what's interesting is that this is not some random form which has been assigned, okay, like this is O, but there's a certain logic, reasoning, and a process as to how these forms came to being as an O. Last one in my exploration is strings mono. Which is inspired by optical illusions. It uses 2 complex forms, one in a 90-degree angle, one a 45-degree angle in a square grid. Again, when stacked together, they feel like an optical art pattern. But if you add a second layer to it, you can read the message. It says optical art. And now when you convert these letter forms into outlines, this font can also be used as a variable typeface, where the variation lies in the number of lines rather than the width of the letter. As these fonts are morphed and often broken into pieces to encrypt a message, the applications of these fonts also bridge the physical and the digital world, making a message much more interactive and playful to read. These fonts can exist in some really vivid ways. For example, a magazine can release one half of a coupon code on their social media and the other half to their subscribers in print. Acting as an Easter egg, it will ignite curiosity to the ones who are not subscribers and serve as a playful element for the ones who are the subscribers. The message might not be so clear in the video. So here it says, "You get us 810." They can also act as passwords painted directly on the wall of a secret underground location. Only the observant enough will get in. Another great usage would be using tessellations. As I said earlier, I am fascinated by the world of patterns and tessellations also. So when I merge typography and tessellation, a play of light, shadow, motion, scale, and tactility takes place. So here we have the letter S mapped onto a wobbling cubes of Heinz-Strobel. And when you play around, the S transforms itself into a very random looking pattern or form. So that here we have letter A, which was created in a ridge format. So the foreground and the background and the letter are exactly opposite, and because of that, there's an intersection, there's a play of light and shadow happening here. And these are currently low fidelity prototypes, but with the correct material and mechanics, they can be scaled up for real world surfaces and architecture. So for example, currently I'm in the process of making a cement tile out of this so that it can be replicated and mass produced if possible. Like how a coffee bean from a farm transforms into a coffee at your desk. These patterns go through a series of steps to be decrypted or transformed into letters that we can read. And this made me wonder, if patterns replace letters to encrypt a message, can they be considered a script in itself for that language? Across this research, I wondered many such questions, some unanswered, and some very stupid ones. And I know it's a lot, it's a start, it's also a bit scattered. Nevertheless, I'm still exploring and wondering the endless possibilities of what typography can be. So yeah, this is my little ongoing pursuit of wonder here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anusheel. Now, we will keep the questions at the end of the session, as I said.